I'm Sophia Reynolds, 38, and this is about the day my family learned what happens when you forget the quiet one holds the keys. Yesterday marked 6 months since everything changed. Since the moment my mother told me to stop contacting them, right on my birthday. What followed was a revelation that shocked not just my family, but an entire room of colleagues who witnessed the unraveling of a carefully maintained facade. Before we dive into how 99 missed calls became the soundtrack to my vindication, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. I'm curious. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Drop it in the comments below. Now let me take you back to that October day when being forgotten became my greatest gift. Growing up as the shy one in the Reynolds family meant accepting a specific role, the listener, never the speaker. During family gatherings, I'd start sharing an idea about investment strategies or tax benefits, only to have Mom wave her hand dismissively. Let Ashley handle the talking, Sophie. She's better with people. The words stung every time, but I'd learned to swallow them down with my wine. Ashley, 3 years younger but infinitely more confident, had mastered the art of commanding attention. Her laugh filled rooms while I filled spreadsheets. Her stories dominated dinners while I quietly calculated tip percentages and covered the check. Sophie's our little numbers girl, Mom would tell her friends, as if being good with finances somehow made me less capable of human connection. What they didn't see, or chose to ignore, was how those numbers translated into their lifestyle. Every month, I reviewed statements, approved transfers, paid off credit cards they maxed out on designer bags and spa treatments, the family cabin maintenance, Mom's Mercedes lease, Ashley's startup ventures that never quite started, all flowing through accounts I managed with a dedication they'd never acknowledge. The irony wasn't lost on me. They trusted me with their financial security, but not with their time. I was reliable enough to ensure their comfort, but not interesting enough to remember on the one day that mattered to me. October had always been my quiet month, my birthday passing like a whisper, while Ashley's December celebrations demanded months of planning. Here's what puzzled even me. Why did I keep enabling them? Why did I continue signing those approvals, knowing each signature was another invisible thread in a web where I barely existed? Maybe because I thought financial support was my way of earning a seat at the table. I was wrong. The credit card statements painted a clear picture of my value to them. Every first of the month, 3 emails would land in my inbox. Mom's Platinum Card, $8,000, $12,000. Ashley's Business Gold, $5,000 or $7,000. And the joint family account that covered their mortgages and utilities, $15,000. I'd review each charge, approve the payments, and file everything meticulously. Not once in 5 years had either of them asked how I managed it all. Sophie, the payment didn't go through, Ashley would text occasionally, usually when she was standing at some boutique counter. I'd fix it within minutes. No, thank you. Just a transaction confirmation screenshot in response. The most telling moment came last Christmas. I'd given Mom a thoughtful photo album of family memories, carefully curated and annotated. Ashley got a first edition of her favorite author's book, searched for months online. Their response? "Oh, Sophie, you really shouldn't be so frugal. It's not like you can't afford better gifts." Mom had actually said that while wearing the $3,000 watch I'd approved the purchase for just weeks earlier. They never connected the dots. Or maybe they did and simply didn't care. The woman they called cheap and antisocial was the same one ensuring their social status remained intact. Every charity gala ticket, every country club membership, every spontaneous vacation, I facilitated it all from behind my laptop screen, invisible but essential. There was something else they didn't know, something Grandpa had arranged before his death 5 years ago, something that would only matter if I ever decided to stop being invisible. The papers were locked in my office safe, waiting. I'd never imagined I'd need them until that October morning when my phone stayed silent, and their Instagram stories showed them shopping together, laughing over lunch, living their best lives on what they didn't know was borrowed time. October 8th arrived like any other day, except it wasn't. I woke to an empty notification screen, No texts, no calls, nothing. By noon, the silence had weight. By 3, it had teeth. I wasn't expecting a party or presents, just acknowledgement. A simple happy birthday would have been enough. Instead, Ashley's Instagram story showed her and Mom at Nordstrom, arms full of shopping bags. "Best day with my favorite person," the caption read. Posted at 2:47 p.m., the exact time I was sitting in my office, staring at 38 candles I'd bought myself for a cake I'd eat alone. I opened our family group chat, the one they'd named Reynolds Women Rock, and typed something I'd never done before. My fingers hesitated over each word. "Feeling a bit forgotten today. It's my birthday." Simple, vulnerable, true. The typing indicators appeared immediately. Mom was responding. My heart lifted slightly, that pathetic hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd simply forgotten the date. We all make mistakes, right? Then her message appeared and everything inside me went cold. "Sophie, we need to talk about your constant need for attention. This passive-aggressive behavior is exhausting. We've discussed this privately, and we think it's best if you give us some space. Please don't reach out anymore. We need time to process how draining your negativity has become." Before I could process the words, a notification popped up. Ashley had liked Mom's message, then another like from Aunt Patricia, then Cousin Janet. My own family was publicly endorsing my exile. I stared at the screen, watching more hearts appear next to Mom's message. The family that never remembered my birthday was remarkably quick to remember to show solidarity against me. My hands weren't shaking. I was surprisingly steady as I screenshotted everything. Evidence, Grandpa would have called it. The likes kept coming. Within an hour, 12 family members had hearted Mom's message. Each notification felt like another small betrayal, but Ashley's response was the one that truly stunned me. "Mom's right, Sophie. Your victim complex is toxic. Maybe use this time to work on yourself instead of guilt-tripping us for having lives. We're not responsible for your happiness," Cousin Mark added. Finally, someone said it. Aunt Patricia. "Sometimes tough love is necessary." I scrolled up through months of chat history. My messages were sparse: happy birthdays, congratulations on promotions, photos from family events I'd attended but barely featured in. Their messages were abundant when they needed something. "Sophie, can you look at this tax thing? Sophie, the payment is late. Sophie, fix this." This wasn't the first time they'd collectively decided I was too much. 3 years ago, when I'd asked why I wasn't invited to Ashley's engagement party, Mom had called me oversensitive. When I mentioned feeling left out of the family vacation they'd planned without me, Ashley said I was making everything about myself. But this was different. This was formal excommunication, witnessed and endorsed by everyone who shared my blood. The quiet one had dared to speak, and they'd responded with coordinated silence. I closed the chat and opened my laptop. 5 years of financial records spread across my screen. Every payment I'd approved, every transfer I'd authorized, every luxury I'd enabled. They wanted space? They were about to get more than they bargained for. My phone buzzed. A private text from Mom. "I hope you understand this is for everyone's good. You've become so needy lately. Maybe therapy would help." Needy. The woman who never asked for anything, who showed up when needed and disappeared when not, who funded their dreams while shrinking her own, needy. I sat in my home office, surrounded by the evidence of my worth: framed CPA license, CFO certificates, photos from company events where I'd smiled alone. If I stayed silent now, what would I lose? The honest answer: a family that already treated me as optional. But silence meant something else, too. It meant accepting that my only value was in being useful, not loved. It meant every future birthday would pass unnoticed while I continued bankrolling their milestones. It meant dying a little more each day, suffocated by my own invisibility. Grandpa Eddie's photo sat on my desk, taken just months before the cancer took him. "Never let them dim your light, Sophie," he'd told me during our last real conversation. "You're worth more than what you do for others. Remember that when the time comes." I'd thought he meant career advice. Now, staring at the trust documents I'd kept locked away for 5 years, I understood differently. He'd seen what I was too loyal to acknowledge, that love shouldn't require you to shrink yourself into nothing. The October birthday party at my company was tomorrow. It was an annual tradition where we celebrated all October birthdays together. Mom and Ashley always attended because the CEO, David Chen, made it a family affair with impressive catering and an open bar. They'd never missed one, though they'd never remembered it was also my birthday celebration. They'd be there tomorrow, playing the role of supportive family, charming my colleagues while treating me like furniture. The same colleagues who'd watched me work late every night, who'd seen me eat lunch alone, who'd noticed but never mentioned the absence of family photos on my desk. My reflection in the laptop screen looked different somehow, not broken or bitter, resolved. They wanted space? Tomorrow they'd learn exactly how much space 5 years of financial support could create. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, type "seen" in the comments. I read every single one, and your stories help others know they're not alone. Also, what time is it where you're watching? I'm curious if late-night listeners relate differently to family dynamics. I've noticed the 2 a.m. crowd understands that particular ache of lying awake, wondering why you're not enough. Before we continue to the party that changed everything, remember, your worth isn't measured by how small you can make yourself to fit into others' lives. Let's continue. The company October birthdays party was scheduled for 4 p.m. in the main conference room. David Chen's assistant had transformed it into an elegant space with gold balloons and catered spreads that rivaled wedding receptions. By 3:45, I was there, wearing my best black dress, the one Mom had called too severe last Christmas. "Sophie, early as always," David greeted me, his keen eyes studying my face. "Big day today, isn't it?" "You could say that," I replied, appreciating that at least someone remembered. The room filled quickly. My colleagues arrived in clusters, chatting about quarterly reports and weekend plans. Then at exactly 4:15, Mom and Ashley swept in like they owned the place. Mom wore her new Saint Laurent jacket, $4,800, approved by me last Tuesday. Ashley's Cartier bracelet caught the light, $8,000, approved on her birthday, because family deserves the best. They worked the room like professionals, laughing with the senior partners, complimenting the decorations, sampling the appetizers. They moved around me like I was a piece of furniture, their bodies angling away whenever we might make eye contact. The message was clear. We're here for the party, not for you. "Your family seems lovely," Jennifer from HR mentioned, watching Mom charm the CFO. "They certainly know how to make an impression," I said. What Jennifer didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Robert Hayes would arrive soon. The family lawyer who'd handled Grandpa's estate, who'd sent me birthday cards every year since his death, who'd asked me last week if I was ready to implement the provisions. I'd told him yes. The cake arrived at 4:30, 3 tiers of chocolate perfection. David would announce the October birthdays soon. Mom and Ashley positioned themselves near the dessert table, phones ready for photos they'd post with hashtags like #FamilyFirst and #blessed. I positioned myself by the windows, watching the room's reflection in the glass. Mom held court near the CEO's wife, gesturing animatedly about her latest charity committee. Ashley networked aggressively with the younger executives, dropping mentions of her latest venture that I knew existed only in her imagination and my approved payments. "Sophie." The voice was quiet beside me. David Chen had approached without my noticing. "I've always wondered something." "What's that?" "Why they act like you don't exist when you're clearly the reason they can afford to be here." My breath caught. "I don't know what you mean." He smiled slightly. "I'm an accountant by training, remember? Before I became CEO. Financial patterns tell stories. Your family's story is particularly interesting." Before I could respond, Mom's laugh cut through the air. She was telling her favorite anecdote about Ashley's brilliance, how she'd graduated summa cum laude, she hadn't, how she'd launched 3 successful businesses, all failed, funded by me. Ladies and gentlemen, David's voice suddenly filled the room. If I could have your attention for our October birthday celebration. The crowd gathered around the cake table. Mom and Ashley remained at the periphery, still avoiding my corner of the room. I watched them whisper to each other, Ashley showing Mom something on her phone. Probably my pathetic birthday message from yesterday, evidence of my neediness. We have several October birthdays to celebrate, David continued, naming each person. Marcus from IT, Jennifer from HR, and… He paused, his eyes finding mine across the room. Someone very special who never asks for recognition but deserves it most. The room waited. Mom and Ashley had stopped whispering, their attention caught by David's unusual tone. Something in the air shifted, that moment before lightning strikes, when everything goes still. Before we continue, Ashley's voice cut through the expectant silence. Can we address the elephant in the room? Every head turned. She stood with theatrical confidence, Mom beside her in supporting solidarity. What elephant would that be? David asked calmly. Sophie's been harassing us, Ashley announced, sending guilt trip messages, making everything about her. It's honestly embarrassing for everyone. Gasps rippled through the room. My colleagues looked between us, confusion evident. Harassing? David's eyebrow raised. Mom stepped forward. She sent 15 texts yesterday. 15, all because we couldn't drop everything for her birthday. You forgot, I said, my voice carrying clearly. You couldn't. You forgot. Don't play victim, Ashley snapped. You're 38, not 8. You're right, I replied, stepping into the circle that had formed. I'm 38, old enough to stop pretending this is normal. What's that supposed to mean? Mom's voice sharpened. It means, I said, meeting her eyes directly, that forgetting my birthday while spending $40,000 of money I approved last month is certainly a choice. The room went silent. David's expression remained neutral, but I caught the slight nod he gave someone behind me. You approved? Ashley laughed. Sophie, you're a glorified bookkeeper. Stop pretending you have any real power here. Actually, a new voice interjected, and Robert Hayes stepped into view, his briefcase in hand. Miss Reynolds has considerably more power than you realize. Mom's face paled slightly. Who are you? Robert Hayes, Hayes and Associates. I manage the Reynolds Family Trust. He set his briefcase on the table with deliberate precision. I'm here at Miss Sophia Reynolds' request to clarify some misconceptions about her role in your financial affairs. Ashley's laugh faltered. What trust? This is ridiculous, Mom said, her voice pitching higher. Sophie, what kind of stunt is this? It's not a stunt, I replied evenly. It's transparency. Something you've demanded from everyone but yourselves. The room had formed a natural amphitheater around us. My colleagues watched with barely concealed fascination. This was better than any corporate drama they'd witnessed. Some people can't handle being told the truth, Ashley projected to the crowd. We tried to set healthy boundaries, and now she's having a public meltdown. Healthy boundaries? I pulled out my phone. Like this message? Your constant need for attention is exhausting. Please don't reach out anymore. Sent on my birthday. Liked by you within 30 seconds. Jennifer from HR audibly gasped. Several colleagues shifted uncomfortably. You're proving our point, Mom said, but her confidence was cracking. This desperate need for validation. From my mother? I interrupted. Yes, how desperate of me. David cleared his throat. Perhaps we should… No, Ashley cut him off, turning to address the room. Everyone should know what we've dealt with. She texts constantly, needs reassurance for everything, can't function without our approval. Interesting, Robert Hayes said, pulling documents from his briefcase. Because these records suggest quite the opposite. What records? Mom demanded. 5 years of financial transactions. Every approval, every transfer, every payment made from the Reynolds Family Trust to support your lifestyle. The color drained from Ashley's face. What are you talking about? Should we start with the Mercedes lease? Robert asked pleasantly. Or perhaps the failed boutique startup, the cosmetic procedures, the… Enough! Mom's composure finally shattered. Sophie, call off your lawyer. This is family business. Funny, I said, my voice steady as granite. Yesterday I wasn't family. Today I am. What changed? Robert Hayes moved with the practiced calm of someone who'd delivered difficult news many times before. He set a leather folder on the table, the Reynolds family crest embossed in gold on its cover, a detail that made Mom's breath catch. Mrs. Reynolds, Miss Reynolds, he addressed them formally, though his tone remained kind. I'm here at Miss Sophia Reynolds' request to clarify the structure of the family trust established by Edward Reynolds before his passing. Daddy never mentioned, Mom started. Actually, he did, Robert interrupted gently. You were present at the reading, you signed acknowledgement papers. Perhaps the grief made you forget the details. He opened the folder, revealing documents with official seals. Several colleagues leaned in, drawn by the gravity of the moment. Miss Sophia Reynolds was named sole trustee of the Reynolds Family Trust 5 years ago. Every financial decision, every disbursement, every investment requires her explicit approval. That's impossible, Ashley said, but her voice wavered. Sophie's she's… The quiet one, I suggested. The one who handles the boring numbers while you live your best life? David Chen moved closer, his presence commanding attention. Robert, for clarity's sake, what exactly does this trustee position entail? Robert smiled slightly. Complete fiduciary control over approximately $12 million in assets, including real estate, investment portfolios, and liquid funds. Miss Reynolds has been exceptionally generous in her distributions, maintaining the family's lifestyle without question for 5 years. The number hung in the air like a physical presence. 12 million. Several colleagues whistled low. But more interesting, Robert continued, pulling out another document, is this provision. The trustee has full discretion to modify or terminate distributions if they determine the beneficiaries are acting against the family's best interests. Mom's hand went to her throat, fingers finding the pearl necklace I'd approved last Christmas. David Chen stepped forward, his CEO presence commanding the room's attention. I have to say, this explains so much. He looked directly at me. The late nights, the meticulous attention to our corporate accounts, the fact that you never take vacations. What's that supposed to mean? Ashley demanded, though her bravado was crumbling. It means, David said, turning to address the room, that someone who manages $12 million in family assets while working full-time as our CFO, without ever mentioning it or using it as leverage, is exactly the kind of person we value here. He walked over to me, his expression thoughtful. Sophie, you've been carrying this responsibility alone, haven't you? Managing their finances while they told me I was too needy for wanting a birthday text, I finished. The room's sympathy was palpable. Several colleagues shook their heads in disgust. Jennifer from HR looked like she wanted to hug me. This is manipulation, Mom said desperately. She's turning everyone against us. No, David replied firmly. She's simply stopping the manipulation you've been doing to her. He pulled out his phone, scrolling briefly. Interesting timing, by the way. Your Instagram shows you shopping at Nordstrom yesterday at 2 p.m., tagged location and all, while your daughter was alone on her birthday. Ashley's face flushed. That's stalking. That's public information you chose to share, David corrected, while publicly ostracizing a family member for expressing hurt. He looked at me with something I'd rarely seen from anyone, genuine respect. Sometimes the quiet ones have the loudest impact when they finally speak up. Robert Hayes cleared his throat. Miss Reynolds, would you like to proceed with the documentation we discussed? The question hung between us all, heavy with possibility. Mom and Ashley stood frozen, finally understanding that their carefully constructed world was built on sand I could sweep away with a signature. The cake still sat untouched, its chocolate perfection now serving as an ironic centerpiece to our family drama. David lifted the microphone again, his voice carrying that particular CEO weight that made everyone listen. "Before we proceed with any documentation," he said, looking directly at me, "I think we should finish what we started. The October birthday announcements." He smiled, and something in that smile told me he'd been planning this moment since he'd arrived. Marcus from IT turning 32, Jennifer from HR celebrating her 40th. He paused, letting the anticipation build. And Sophia Reynolds, our exceptional CFO, who turns 38 today. The applause started immediately, my colleagues' enthusiasm genuine and warm. But David wasn't finished. "Sophia has been with us for 8 years. In that time, she's never once asked for special recognition, never mentioned her birthday, never expected us to celebrate her. Even today, she came early to ensure everything was perfect for everyone else." Mom shifted uncomfortably. Ashley's phone hung limp in her hand. "What many of you don't know," David continued, his eyes never leaving mine, "is that Sophia has been managing not just our corporate finances, but a significant family trust, all while maintaining the highest level of professionalism and discretion." "David," I started, but he held up his hand. "No, Sophie. It's time people knew exactly who you are. Not the quiet one, not the family bookkeeper, but a financial genius who's been carrying everyone else while asking for nothing in return." The room held its breath. This was the moment, the precipice between my old life and whatever came next. Robert Hayes stood ready with his documents. Mom and Ashley waited in visible dread. My colleagues watched with rapt attention. "So," David said, raising his champagne glass, "before we cut this cake, I have one question for you, Sophie. What would you like for your birthday?" Before I could answer David's question, Ashley erupted. Her voice carried that particular pitch of desperation masked as anger. "This is absolutely ridiculous!" She turned to face the room. "You're all being manipulated. Sophie's always been like this, playing victim, making everything about her pain. We tried to give her space to grow, to become less clingy, and this is how she responds?" "Clingy?" I asked quietly. "I texted once on my birthday." "You text constantly." Ashley pulled out her phone, waving it like evidence. "Look! 15 messages over the last month." David took the phone, scrolling. "These are responses to your requests for money. Can you approve this? Payment declined. Fix it. Need funds transferred." He handed it back. "Every single text from Sophie is responding to your demands." Mom stepped forward, her society smile plastered on. "This is a family matter. We shouldn't be airing—" "You aired it," Jennifer from HR interrupted. "You announced to this room that Sophie was harassing you. You chose the public forum." "Exactly," Mom said, grasping at straws. "And we're trying to help her. She's clearly having some sort of breakdown. We had to block her for our mental health." The room collectively recoiled. Someone actually laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "You blocked your daughter," David said slowly, "on her birthday, after forgetting it completely, while living off her money?" "It's not her money," Ashley snapped. "It's family money." "That she controls," Robert Hayes interjected calmly, "has controlled for 5 years. Every dollar you've spent has been at her discretion." "Then she's been lying to us." Mom's mask finally slipped completely. "Pretending to be poor while controlling millions." "When?" I asked, my voice cutting through the noise. "Did I ever pretend to be poor? When did I lie? I simply never corrected your assumptions about the quiet, boring daughter who wasn't worth remembering." Have you ever had a moment where staying silent meant losing yourself? Drop A if you've been there. And if someone in your life needs to hear this story, please share it with them. Sometimes one story can change someone's entire perspective on their worth. I see your comments about feeling invisible, about being the family ATM, about birthdays that pass unnoticed. You're not alone. Your pain is valid. Your boundaries matter. Now here comes the part that changed everything, the moment 5 years of silence finally found its voice. Ashley's next move was pure desperation. She started scrolling frantically through her phone, then held it up triumphantly. Look at this. She sent 12 messages just yesterday after Mom asked for space. 12! This is harassment. She began reading aloud. The October payment is processed. Your Nordstrom card is reactivated. Mortgage payment confirmed. Your spa membership is renewed. Ashley's voice faltered as she realized what she was reading. The room had gone completely silent. Those were all sent before Mom's message, I said calmly. Before you told me not to contact you. I was doing what I've done every month for 5 years, managing your lives while you pretended I didn't exist. Mom tried another angle. We're not perfect, but cutting off family over a birthday. You cut me off, I interrupted. You literally wrote, don't reach out anymore. That's different. We needed boundaries. From what? I asked. From the person who pays your bills? From the daughter who never asks for anything? What exactly were you protecting yourselves from? David Chen pulled out his own phone. Mrs. Reynolds, your Facebook post from yesterday says, perfect day with my favorite daughter. Posted at 3 p.m., while your other daughter was spending her birthday alone. Ashley's face went red. She could have come shopping with us. I wasn't invited, I said simply. I'm never invited. Because you're so judgmental, Mom exclaimed, always watching us with those disappointed eyes. I wasn't disappointed, I replied. I was invisible. There's a difference. Robert Hayes stepped forward again. Miss Reynolds, shall we proceed? The documents are ready. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone. Mom clutched Ashley's arm. My colleagues watched with bated breath. And I stood there, finally visible, finally seen, finally ready to stop being the family ghost who paid the bills. I stood up straighter, feeling the weight of 38 years of silence lifting from my shoulders. The room seemed to hold its breath as I walked to the table where Robert had laid out the documents. You're right, Mom, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the room. You do need space. Space from my financial support. Space from my silent compliance. Space from the daughter you never wanted to see. Sophie, don't be dramatic, Mom started. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being factual. I picked up the pen Robert offered. Effective immediately, you'll have all the space you wanted. You can't just... Ashley stepped forward, but David Chen smoothly blocked her path. Actually, she can, Robert said. As sole trustee, Miss Reynolds has complete discretion over all distributions. I began signing the documents, each signature deliberate and measured. The credit cards linked to the trust, canceled, the mortgage payments, suspended pending review, the monthly allowances, terminated. Ashley pulled out her phone, presumably to check her banking app. Her face went white. My cards are already declined? I canceled them this morning, I said calmly, when I accepted that you meant what you said about not wanting contact. This is financial abuse, Mom shrieked. The room actually laughed. Someone called out, That's rich coming from you. I'm not cutting you off entirely, I continued, maintaining my composure. I'll maintain your health insurance and a basic monthly stipend of $2,000. Enough to live, not enough to live off. 2,000? Ashley gasped. My car payment alone is $1,500, I finished. For a car you don't need in a city with excellent public transportation, you might have to make some lifestyle adjustments. The reality was sinking in. Mom's hand went to her designer jacket as if it might evaporate. Ashley stared at her phone, watching her financial world crumble in real time. Robert Hayes cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention back to the legal reality of the situation. For complete transparency, I should clarify the full scope of Miss Sophia Reynolds' position. He pulled out a sealed document, breaking it open ceremoniously. This is the original trust designation, signed by Edward Reynolds 5 years ago. It states, and I quote, I name my granddaughter, Sophia Marie Reynolds, as sole trustee of the Reynolds Family Trust, with complete discretionary power over all distributions, investments, and financial decisions. That's impossible, Mom whispered. Daddy would have told me. He did, Robert replied. You were present at the reading. You signed acknowledgement papers. Perhaps you didn't think it mattered since Sophie had always been so accommodating. The trust currently holds, Robert continued, his voice carrying the weight of legal authority, 12.3 million in assets. This includes the family home in Westchester, the vacation property in the Hamptons, the investment portfolio, and liquid assets of approximately $4 million. Several colleagues gasped. Jennifer from HR whispered, "Holy shit." Every luxury purchase, every vacation, every monthly expense over the past 5 years has required Miss Reynolds's approval, Robert explained. She has approved, without question, over $2 million in discretionary spending for family members who couldn't remember her birthday. We didn't know, Ashley protested weakly. You didn't care, I corrected. As long as the money flowed, you never questioned where it came from or who made it possible. David Chen stepped forward. I have to ask, Sophie, why did you keep approving everything? Why enable them? I looked at my mother, at my sister, these women who shared my blood but never my life. Because I thought financial support was love. I thought if I gave enough, silently enough, eventually I'd matter enough to be remembered. And now? David asked gently. Now I know better. The full scope of my control was dawning on them in waves. Mom's face cycled through disbelief, rage, and finally, naked panic. The house, she said faintly. The house is in the trust? Everything is in the trust, Robert confirmed. The Westchester property, valued at $2.8 million, the Hamptons cottage at $1.6 million, even the Mercedes you drove here today. Ashley's phone buzzed. She looked at it, her face crumpling. My Uber's canceling. The cards declined. The spa just texted, Mom said, staring at her screen. My appointment tomorrow is canceled due to payment issues. 5 years, I said, letting the number hang in the air. 5 years of silent approvals. Your gym memberships, your country club dues, your charity gala tickets where you'd introduce Ashley as your accomplished daughter, while I sat at home, managing the very funds that bought your seat at those tables. We'll contest this, Mom said desperately. We'll sue. Robert actually chuckled. On what grounds? That you were given too much money for too long? That your daughter was too generous? That would be an interesting case to present to a judge. You manipulated Daddy, Mom accused, turning on me. You poisoned him against us. Grandpa saw what you refused to, I replied. He saw who remembered his birthday when he was dying, who visited him during chemo when you were too busy, who held his hand when he said goodbye. David Chen raised his glass again. I think we all see it now, too. The room murmured agreement. My colleagues, these people who'd worked alongside me for years, were finally seeing me not as the quiet accountant who ate lunch alone, but as someone who'd been carrying an impossible weight with impossible grace. The jet, Ashley said suddenly. We're supposed to fly to Miami next week. Not anymore, I said simply. The meltdown was immediate and spectacular. Ashley's phone hit the ground as she lunged toward the table, only to be smoothly intercepted by David's security chief, who'd been watching from the corner. You can't do this, she screamed. That's our money, our inheritance. It's Grandpa's money, I corrected, which he specifically placed under my control. Every document is legal, witnessed, and filed with the state. Mom tried a different approach, tears suddenly appearing. Sophie, sweetheart, we're family. You can't destroy your family over a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? I asked. You were very clear. You need space from me. I'm giving it to you. We didn't mean financially, Ashley protested. Oh? So you only wanted emotional distance? You wanted to keep taking my money while treating me like I don't exist? How convenient. The room watched as Ashley frantically scrolled through her banking apps, watching account after account show insufficient funds. Her American Express, canceled. Her Bloomingdale's card, frozen. Even her Starbucks app showed a zero balance. My rent is due tomorrow, Ashley whispered. $3,500. Better start looking for a cheaper place, someone called out from the crowd. Mom's phone rang. she answered with shaking hands. Hello? Yes, this is Margaret Reynolds. What? That's impossible. Check again. Her face went gray. The lease is terminated? The Mercedes, I explained to the room. Leased through the trust. I terminated it this morning. You have 24 hours to return it to the dealership. How are we supposed to get home? Mom demanded. The same way millions of people do every day, I replied. Public transportation. Or maybe one of those family members who liked your message yesterday will give you a ride. I'm sure they'll be happy to support your need for space from me. I turned back to the documents, signing the final pages with steady hands. Each signature felt like shedding a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. Robert notarized each one with practiced efficiency. The new distribution structure is as follows, I announced, my voice carrying the same professional tone I used in board meetings. Health insurance will continue. I'm not a monster. Each of you will receive $2,000 monthly for basic expenses. This is not negotiable. 2,000? Mom's voice cracked. Our mortgage alone is 6,000. Then you'll need to sell the house and find something within your means, I replied. Like I did when I first started working, living in a studio apartment while you complained I never hosted family dinners. What about my business? Ashley pleaded. I have investors. What investors? I asked. The only money going into your boutique consulting firm has been from the trust. 60,000 last year alone for an office you never went to and services you never provided. Robert added, all commercial leases under the trust are terminated effective immediately. The office space, the storage units, the parking spaces, all reverting to trust control. You planned this, Mom accused. You've been planning this humiliation. No, I said firmly. I planned to have a quiet birthday. Maybe get a text from my family. Instead, you gave me clarity. You showed me exactly what I am to you, nothing but a bank account. David Chen stepped forward. For what it's worth, Sophie, you're considerably more than that to us here. Which is why, effective Monday, you're being promoted to Executive Vice President of Finance. The announcement sent another ripple through the room. My colleagues burst into spontaneous applause. That position, David continued, looking directly at Mom and Ashley, comes with a substantial raise. Not that Sophie needs it, apparently. The cake still sat untouched, its pristine frosting now seeming like a metaphor for everything that had remained unsaid for too long. I walked over to it, picking up the knife. You know what the saddest part is? I said, addressing Mom and Ashley but speaking to everyone. I would have given you everything anyway, happily, gladly. All I wanted in return was to matter, to be seen, to have my birthday remembered by the two people who should never forget it. I cut the first piece, the chocolate layers revealing themselves perfectly. 5 years of silent support, 5 years of being told I was too quiet, too boring, too needy. 5 years of watching you live extraordinary lives while I lived in your shadow, making it all possible. Sophie, Mom started, her voice smaller now, we do love you. No, I said simply. You love what I provide. There's a difference. Love doesn't forget. Love doesn't publicly shame. Love doesn't tell someone seeking connection to go away. I placed the slice on a plate, then handed it to David. For someone who actually remembered my birthday. We can fix this, Ashley said desperately. We can go to family therapy. We can work through this. With what money? Someone called out, earning nervous laughter. I'm open to therapy, I said. Individual therapy for each of you, which I'll pay for. Because despite everything, I want you to get better. But rebuilding our relationship? That will take more than apologies made under financial duress. Robert gathered his documents. Miss Reynolds, everything is filed and effective immediately. The trust accounts have been restructured per your instructions. The new bank cards for Mrs. and Miss Reynolds will arrive within 5 business days with their monthly stipend accessible. This is temporary, right? Mom asked, grasping for hope. Once we've learned our lesson? That depends entirely on you, I replied. The immediate aftermath was almost comedic if it hadn't been so pathetic. Ashley stood at the reception desk, trying card after card, each one declining with a cheerful beep. Mom was on her phone, frantically calling Aunt Patricia. Patricia, we need a ride. Sophie's lost her mind and… What do you mean you can't, Patricia? Hello? The family members who'd so quickly liked her message yesterday were suddenly unavailable. Funny how that worked. I'll give you a ride, Jennifer from HR offered, her voice dripping with faux sympathy. The bus stop is just 2 blocks away. I can walk you there. The bus? Ashley looked horrified. BART's actually faster, Marcus from IT added helpfully. Though you'll need exact change. Do you have cash? Neither of them had touched physical money in years. I watched them fumble with their designer wallets, finding nothing but dead credit cards and old receipts. Sophie, Mom tried one more time, approaching me with her hands out like I was a spooked animal. Sweetheart, please. Let's go home and talk about this. I am home, I said, gesturing to my colleagues. These people see me every day. They know my coffee order, my favorite lunch spot, my work anniversaries. You know what? Jennifer here even remembered my birthday last year. Brought me a cupcake. It was red velvet, Jennifer added. Your favorite. Mom's face crumbled. She didn't even know my favorite cake flavor. Security approached politely. Ladies, the event is ending. Can we help you arrange transportation? The final humiliation, being escorted out by security from their daughter's workplace, passing colleagues who whispered and stared, their designer heels clicking against the marble floor toward an exit that led to a world where their credit cards were just plastic and their status was just memory. By 6 a.m. the next morning, my phone had logged 99 missed calls. The voicemails started desperately and devolved into rage, then back to desperation. I didn't listen to any of them. The text messages were more revealing. Cousin Mark, how could you do this to your own mother? Aunt Patricia, family doesn't treat family this way. Uncle James, you've gone too far, Sophie. Interesting how they all had my number when they needed to criticize, but never when it was my birthday. The family group chat had exploded overnight. I watched the message count climb, 247 unread messages, before removing myself from the group. But not before screenshotting Ashley's 2 a.m. message. She's destroyed us. Mom can't stop crying, we might be homeless. Homeless, with $2,000 a month each and the ability to work. The horror. My work email, however, told a different story. David had sent a company-wide announcement about my promotion. The responses were overwhelming. Finally. Well deserved. About time someone recognized your worth. But the message that stopped me cold came from an unexpected source. Grandpa's lawyer, not Robert but his personal attorney, had forwarded a sealed letter dated 5 years ago, to be delivered when Sophie finally stands up for herself. I opened it with shaking hands. My dearest Sophie, if you're reading this, you've finally done what I always knew you would, chosen yourself. Your mother and sister will never understand that love isn't measured in silence or sacrifice. You were never the weak one, my dear. You were the one strong enough to give without receiving. Now be strong enough to stop. All my love, Grandpa Eddie. P.S. Check the safety deposit box. Key enclosed. There's one more surprise. A small brass key was taped to the bottom of the letter. Monday morning arrived with a new office, a new title, and a new perspective. The executive floor was quiet, sophisticated, a far cry from my cubicle days. David stopped by with coffee and a knowing smile. The board was unanimous, he said. Your handling of complex financial situations under pressure sealed the deal. You mean my family meltdown? I mean your grace under fire. Most people would have gone scorched earth. You maintained dignity and boundaries. That's executive material. Meanwhile, across town, Mom and Ashley were learning what most people already knew. Work was mandatory when you had bills to pay. Mom had applied to 14 jobs over the weekend, her decades-old resume desperately updated. Ashley discovered her CEO of boutique consulting firm title meant nothing without actual clients or experience. The universe has a sense of humor, though. Mom's first interview? At a company where I'd consulted on their financial restructuring. They called me for a reference. She's my mother, I told them honestly. She's intelligent but has been out of the workforce for 20 years. She'll need extensive training and patience. They hired her anyway, part-time, entry level. The salary? 32,000 a year. Ashley's Instagram had gone dark after her last post, a sunset photo with the caption, "Rising from the ashes." The comments were brutal. Apparently, her followers enjoyed her luxury lifestyle content, not her philosophical rebirth phase. But the real kicker came Tuesday afternoon. Robert called with news. They've both enrolled in the financial literacy course you suggested, and your mother has scheduled her first therapy appointment. Already? Apparently, she tried to pay for groceries with a check that bounced. The humiliation was motivating. I felt something then. Not satisfaction, not vindication, but maybe the first stirring of hope that they might actually learn something from this. 3 weeks later, the apology emails started arriving. Mom's was 8 pages long, single-spaced, a rambling mixture of justification and genuine remorse. "I see now how we diminished you," she wrote. "How we took your quiet strength for weakness, your generosity for obligation." Ashley's was shorter but more honest. "I've been jealous of you my entire life. You had Grandpa's love, his respect. I had Mom's attention but never what you had, genuine admiration from someone who mattered. I'm sorry I made you pay for that, literally and figuratively." They weren't asking for money. Robert had made it clear that any manipulation attempts would result in complete termination of support. They were asking for something harder to give: forgiveness. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I went to the safety deposit box Grandpa had mentioned. Inside, beyond the expected documents and family jewelry, was a photo album I'd never seen. Pictures of Grandpa and me through the years. At my college graduation, my first day of work. Quiet lunches where Mom and Ashley were absent. On the last page, a note. "You were always my favorite, Sophie. Not because you were quiet, but because you were kind. Never lose that, even when they don't deserve it." The next day, I sent identical responses to Mom and Ashley. Therapy first, 6 months minimum. Financial literacy course completed. Then we can talk about rebuilding, not the trust fund, our trust. Mom replied within minutes. "I understand. Thank you for not giving up on us entirely." Ashley's response was more telling. "I got a job today, reception at a dental office. It's honest work. You would have been proud of Grandpa. He always said honest work was the best kind." Maybe she had been listening all those years. Maybe we all had been, just to the wrong things. I met with Robert to establish the new framework: clear, professional, and non-negotiable. The document was titled Requirements for Relationship Restoration, and I insisted on treating it like any other contract. "First requirement," I told Robert as he typed, "individual therapy for a minimum of 6 months. Weekly sessions, no exceptions. I'll cover the cost, but I receive monthly confirmation of attendance from the therapist. Second, complete a certified financial literacy course, not an online quickie, the full 12-week program at the community college. Third, maintain employment for at least 6 months. No gaps, no excuses. Learn what it means to earn rather than expect. Fourth, no contact with me outside of a monthly email update on their progress. No manipulation, no guilt, no surprise visits to my office." Robert looked up. "And if they complete all this?" "Then we start family therapy together. 1 session a month, building slowly. The trust distributions can be reevaluated after 1 full year of compliance, but never returning to previous levels." "You're giving them a chance," he observed. "I'm giving them structure," I corrected. "Something Grandpa tried to do but they never accepted from him. Maybe losing everything will make them value something." The terms were sent that afternoon. Mom accepted immediately. Ashley took 3 days, finally responding with, "I understand these are consequences, not punishments. I accept." That distinction mattered. It showed growth, however small. I also established my own boundaries in writing. No unannounced visits. No financial discussions outside of official channels. No using other family members as intermediaries. No public social media posts about our relationship without consent. These aren't walls, I told my own therapist that week. They're load-bearing structures. Without them, everything collapses. She smiled. Sounds like someone else has been learning too. 6 months is a long time when you're rebuilding from scorched earth, but it passes quickly when you're finally living your own life. I traveled, first time in 5 years. I dated, someone who remembered not just my birthday, but my coffee order and favorite author. I slept, deeply, without the 3 a.m. anxiety about managing everyone else's existence. The monthly updates came like clockwork. Mom's therapist helped her uncover a generational pattern of emotional neglect she'd inherited from her own mother. I gave Ashley attention because I never got it, she wrote. I ignored you because you seemed so capable. I see now that capability doesn't mean you didn't need love. Ashley's journey was different. Working reception taught her humility. A patient yelled at me today for something that wasn't my fault, she wrote in month 3. I smiled and fixed it anyway. Is this how you felt all those years? Invisible but essential? The financial literacy instructor sent me a note. Your mother asked more questions than any student I've had. Your sister took notes like her life depended on it. Perhaps it does. But the real growth wasn't in what they learned about money, it was what they learned about value. Mom discovered she was good at organizing, eventually moving from entry level to office manager. Ashley found she had a talent for customer service, her charm finally serving a purpose beyond self-promotion. Being family doesn't grant unlimited access to your peace or your purse. That became my mantra, embroidered on a pillow Jennifer gave me for my 39th birthday, the one 73 people remembered to celebrate. The trust fund remained, waiting, not as a weapon or reward, but as a reminder that love and money should never be confused. Grandpa knew that. Now, finally, so did I. 1 year later, we sat in a neutral space, a therapist's office with soft lighting and a box of tissues neither of us had touched. Mom looked different. Not older, but more present. Ashley had cut her hair short, practical for work. I sat between them, no longer the invisible bridge, but a full person. Sophie, Mom began, her voice steady. I need you to know something. The money, losing it, was the best thing that happened to us. Not because we learned to budget or work, but because we finally saw you, the real you. Not the quiet girl we overlooked, but the woman who held us up while we looked down on her. Ashley added, I posted about you yesterday, first time in a year. Just said, my sister taught me that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's the quiet voice saying, enough. Got more genuine engagement than any of my luxury posts ever did. The therapist smiled. Sophie, would you like to share your reflection? I learned that love shouldn't require you to disappear, I said. That boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges with proper weight limits. And that family isn't about blood or obligation, it's about choice. I'm choosing to try again, but differently this time. We established new terms. Modest trust distributions resumed, enough for comfort, not excess. Monthly dinners, but at my choice of restaurant. Holidays together if it felt right, apart if it didn't. They had my phone number again, but with the understanding that no was a complete sentence. The Reynolds Family Trust became something new, not a source of power or pain, but a tool for building healthier relationships. Grandpa Eddie would have loved the irony, his money finally teaching us what money couldn't buy. My 39th birthday was smaller but sweeter. Mom remembered. Ashley baked a cake, badly, but with love. And for the first time in my life, I felt seen. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their worth isn't determined by how much they give or how little they ask for. What's the hardest boundary you've ever had to set with family? Share in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And remember, subscribe for more stories about finding your voice when the world expects you to stay quiet. Whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. where you are, thank you for being here, for witnessing this journey, and for seeing the value in standing up for yourself.